power, whether red or blue. They could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
Hey, good evening, fellow Texians. It's me, Daniel Miller, and it's time for our late night coffee talk. And I can neither confirm nor deny that I was using coffee beans. Did a little percussion on the intro music. What happens, man? You see these when you spend your day working, and in the background you have videos of people with the maracas or the tambourines or whatever it is. It's like, you know, you just what do you do, right? Anyway, it is that time again. Time for my weekly decompress, a break from the work, to have a cup of coffee with you, answer your questions, talk about whatever is on our collective minds, and spend a little time together, even if it is virtually. So, as we get started, you know what to do. Go ahead and do all the things, right? Hang on, I made a graphic for this so I don't have to do all this. Boom, there you go. Share the live stream, right? Share it wherever you can. If you're on either of the YouTube channels, chat is active, so get your questions in there in chat. And of course, if it's you're watching this on any of the Facebook pages, chat is available there too. Just drop it in the comments. It all feeds into one thing, and Kara's going to run interference and make sure that I see them because you guys always have it scrolling like a slot machine, right? If you're watching on one of the outlets that has chat, you're seeing that one, but I'm seeing all of them. So it gets pretty ridiculous. So anyway, drop your questions in. And of course, if you'd like to email your questions, send them over to coffeetalk@thetnm.org. That's coffeetalk@thetnm.org. And tonight, look, before we get kicked off, coffee, right? Chris and Christina Drury. Christina is our local coordinator and just an all-around phenomenal Texian working there over there in Tyler. And saw her at a meeting I spoke at in Nacogdoches, right? They're spinning up a local group in Nacogdoches, had a meetup, and Chris and Christina brought me this Big Shot coffee, and it is roasted and packaged by Coffee City USA right there in Tyler, right? And I think that's on 155, if I remember right. But anyway, that's what's in the cup tonight, and it is a great cup of coffee. And I don't get these aren't paid endorsements, right? These aren't sponsorships. So if I'm telling you I'm enjoying the coffee, I am legitimately enjoying the coffee. So thank you to the Druries, not just for the coffee, but for the fantastic job that you guys are doing over there in my old neck of the woods, spreading the word about Texas independence, man. I mean, you guys are on fire. So salute to you. And a salute to Mike Duncan, who arranged that meetup there in Travis Clardy's own backyard right there in Nacogdoches. Turned out to be a phenomenal meeting. Met a lot of wonderful people, got to see a lot of people again, but there was a lot of enthusiasm there for starting a local group, right? And if you haven't looked lately, our local groups are popping all over the place. I mean, it's getting nuts. So look, if there's already one in your area, head over to tnm.me/local groups and join a local group. And then, of course, if you're looking on that map and there is not one in your area, why don't you jam your hand in the air? Say, look, I'll do it. Right? That's how it all started with me back in 1996. That's how I got involved in activism for Texas independence. My line in the sand day, obviously I talk about it all the time, August 24th, 1996, but my real foray into making, getting stuck in, right? If I'm looking for a term, that's the only one I can think of. But that first kind of coming out that said, look, I'm in this thing, I'm going to do whatever it takes, was shortly thereafter. And I recounted the story to a couple of people in Nacogdoches, where literally I went to a meeting, and the person who was supposed to head the meeting backed out, like just did not even show up. And so there's literally, and I can tell you exactly where it was. If any of you are familiar with Longview, Texas, on Gilmer Road and Loop 281, right there on the corner, used to be a hot biscuit restaurant. You guys remember those things? Renowned for their breakfast buffets. And their cheap cups of coffee. But they had a meeting room there, and that meeting room was packed. And somebody finally came out, and I was out there standing around chewing the fat with some of the other attendees. This guy in a cowboy hat walks out, and he goes, "Hey, does anyone here know how to run a meeting? We need to get started." And nobody did anything, so I put my hand up in the air, and I said, I've done it before. I'll do it. And literally, that was the first time that I actually took some sort of leadership role. Like I took the the bull by the horns is so cliche, but I saw a need and I did what I had to do to fill it. And it hasn't stopped since. I mean, I literally have not stopped since. But that's what coffee's for, right? Hmm. All right. Well, look, tonight, it's going to be sort of grab bag, right? Your questions are going to steer so much of what we talk about tonight. And look, we may go the full hour, we may not, right? If you got a few questions and I'm don't have a whole bunch to decompress, then I'll get back to work and you guys can get to bed or whatever you're doing. One thing I will mention, I do believe it's next week. I will be speaking over in Houston. You can go find that on the events page on TNM at tnm.me/events and get all the details there. But if you're in the Houston area, would love to have you guys come out there. Let's pack the room out. It's going to be a phenomenal time. And of course, everyone is getting geared up for all the state conventions. Oh, yeah. Kara just dropped me a note. Is that apparently it's on Wednesday, which means there won't be a coffee talk next week, at least not on a Wednesday. Wow. Okay. Well, thanks for the heads up on that. So, no coffee talk next Wednesday because I will be speaking there. Maybe we'll see if we can live stream it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Right. We got to start live streaming more of these things. Anyway. So, but go check it out. Look, if you want to see the Dog and Pony Show in person, then roll on over to Houston. We're going to be there. Let's pack the room out. Okay, so look, I invoked his name earlier, Travis Clardy, and it's going to be. Oh yeah, for those of you just joining us, get your questions in. Kara's already queuing them up, and we're going to start off by taking some of them that we got in via email. Right at coffeetalk@vtnm.org. Okay. And here's one. Let's do this one here first. This one is from Tom, and it's because I invoked Travis Clardy's name. I think we got this in, but this is what Tom says. He says, just wanted you to know, I called Travis Clardy's office regarding what he said on Facebook about TNM. Okay, so before we do that, let's have a refresher course. Okay. So back during the legislative session. All right. So think about how long ago that was, right? That was well over a year ago, that Kyle filed the bill, House Bill 1359. Okay. And, Travis Clardy, gets on Facebook and, starts talking about it on a Facebook Live. And of course I could make tons of fun of this guy for his terrible Facebook skills, but I won't. But he gets on Facebook Live and he says, look, I've been getting a lot of comments about this, right? A lot of people contacting him about wanting him to support House Bill 1359. And he says that he starts going in, and Travis is one of those guys whose mouth, his mouth kind of overrides his rear, right? He starts talking and talks himself into a hole. Okay. And so, he's starting to talk about this and why he's opposed to it. And he's making some razzle dazzle, some kind of insane mental gymnastics. And he starts feeling himself real good. And he gets in there and goes, I just equate people who support that to, like somebody who would go over the wall of the Alamo in the middle of the night. Oh, really? Really? So what he said is that people that support Texas independence are cowards. Okay. Now, he didn't use the word coward, but what else, what other word would you use to describe someone who snuck out of perhaps the most iconic battle of the Texas Revolution in the middle of the night to avoid fighting? I'm sure you wouldn't call them heroes or rational. You would refer to them as cowards, right? At least I would, and I'm sure Travis would, because that's what he was saying. So what we did is I shot a video challenging him to debate me. It's like, look, dude, If you have the testicular fortitude to get up and say the thing that you said and call us cowards, let's have the face off, right? Let's have the face off. You get on a stage. I'll even let you bring 9 or 10 of your closest friends, maybe to whisper in your ear, right? To feed you answers. But I will publicly debate Travis Clardy. And it was a public challenge, right? We posted it, we sent it out, it was issued to him, and his phone spun up. So not only was he getting calls about 1359, but he's getting calls from Texans that are outraged that he would refer to pro-independence Texans as cowards, okay? Again, underestimating the level of support, right? So he's getting burned from everywhere. Now, of course, to this day, he has not accepted the debate challenge, so I'm pretty sure we know who the coward in this relationship is, okay? But he hasn't accepted the debate challenge. And you know, his response from his staffers was, well, he didn't say cowards. Well, yeah, okay. Really, that's your excuse for the really horrible things. But let me tell you, Travis Clardy, his response was not unique, right? It's not like he was the only jerk out of the entire batch of legislators, right? They were all that way, whether it was the Chris Patties or the Jeff Leaches or guys like that. They had, and to this day still have, a level of disdain for their constituents that I find unmatched. Okay, now, you know, you understand, you start doing a little background on Travis Clardy, you understand that he kind of moonlights for a law firm, you know, that handles lobbying and things like that out of Washington, D.C. I mean, he posted the picture of him at their office, you know, oh, glad to accept position on his Facebook profile, right? So, you know, he's not trying to hide it, but we know where his loyalties are, right? Definitely not to his constituents, or he would have been on board with 1359 to at least give Texans the vote. So here we are over a year later, and Tom is still burning Travis Clardy over calling us cowards. So he said he called Travis Clardy's office. He says they were pretty arrogant, but I pretty much unloaded on them. I'm an old guy, so I don't mess around. I told the young man that no, I would not have left the Alamo. I would have stayed and died with Travis. I pray Texas will be a shining light in the world going forward. Just let Daniel Miller know we support the movement, Tom. Hey, so Tom, here's to you, buddy, for digging up the Travis Clardy thing and to this day not letting him off the hook for what he said, okay? And look, I mean, feel free. I think any of these people, when they do something outrageous or heinous like this, it's perfectly acceptable to express your outrage. Call their offices. I mean, burn those phone lines up and let them know that you don't appreciate being treated like garbage. And don't think because the legislature's not in session and the primaries are over. Don't ever let them off the hook. Do not ever let them forget how they let us down. Never let them forget. Travis Clardy's not the only one that got challenged to a debate, right? Jeff Leach made his ridiculous, heinous comments. I went to and spoke at a meeting in McKinney, and there happened to be a guy with the county party there in the back, and he says, I'm back here. During the Q&A, he says, I'm texting back and forth with Jeff Leach now. I said, come to the stage. Turn your camera on. And right then and there, I recorded a message to Jeff Leach and said, you know, look, if your guts match your mouth, then let's debate. We'll come right back to this very same stage, right? It was at a church. We'll come right back to the same stage, and you can get on one side and I'll get on the other. And then we'll see who's right and who's wrong. We'll let the people decide, right? But he wouldn't even do that. You know, his response back was, ha ha. To this day, I mean, our guys still razz him on Twitter. That guy can't open his daggum mouth. He can't pop a single character in Twitter that somebody's not jumping on him and going, when are you going to debate Daniel Miller, right? So you can't ever let up on these guys. You can't. And when the time comes to debate this issue for when it counts, right? When it makes all the difference in the world, that's when it's going to be pedal to the metal. But understand that the reason that they won't debate, the reason that they do all these, say all this ridiculous stuff to denigrate, is because they know they are on the losing end of history. If we go to a vote on this today, we win. We're gonna blow these guys out by probably 20 to 25 percentage points. We're going to utterly decimate them. Okay, that is if we can get a fair vote. So they know it, you know it, we know it. We just got to act like it, and we have to remember that this is our Texas. This is our Texas, not theirs. They may have the offices and the plaques and everything else, but we Texas supporters are in the majority. We're in the majority. And so we have to start acting like it. And we have to start getting incensed when our will is not respected. Okay. Speaking of elections, one of the other emails that came in to coffeetalk@vtnm.org was this one here from Ralph. And this is what Ralph says. He says, I just watched your May 4th Coffee Talk. You stated you do not trust any electronic voting machine. I agree 100%. I was a senior technician in a systems design lab and an engineer, product quality and reliability, who developed microprocessors for over 2 decades. Never trust any electronic machine, as there are many ways to corrupt the machine, including hidden functionality that cannot be discovered. One develops a trusted process paper first as a baseline. Efficiency does not count. Thank you for what you do. Ralph, thank you for your encouraging words and for tuning in week after week and sounding off on what we discussed a week ago, right? Which was I won't go into all the details, but people feel free to go back and look in the archives. But we talked about this idea that electronic voting machines very likely are part of the cause of what we're seeing with some of these elections nowadays, right? And we, we went back to a 2019 report from DEF CON, the convention, basically the hacker convention up in Las Vegas, where they were able to hack over 100 machines, different models in what they call the voting village, all of which are still in use someplace in the United States right now. And then we coupled that with video from a symposium that's been traveling Texas that demonstrates what happened at DEF CON in real life. Okay. So I said this on the campaign trail. You just heard it echoed from a third party who is involved, not in election integrity, but involved, like myself, in technology, saying that electronic voting machines are not to be trusted. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I said it on the campaign trail when I was running for lieutenant governor in, it wasn't Victoria. It was down in that neck of the woods somewhere, Yorktown maybe, at a candidate event. And they asked about electronic voting machines. And I just got up and said, I know this. I'm in technology. That's how I feed my family. It's how I fed my family for years. And, there is no such thing as an impenetrable technological system, right? No, there's no impenetrable computer system. It doesn't exist. Some things may take longer than others, but I will tell you that the electronic voting machines are not the pinnacle of technological security, right? They are not they are not sort of that military grade encryption, chain of custody, and of course everybody's talking about the movie 2000 Mules. You couple the idea that they're stuffing the paper ballots with they're probably, messing around with the electronic voting machines. And all of a sudden now you've got a recipe for disaster that says, look, until we directly address this and raise holy hell about it, then we're going to have selections and not elections. It's a huge concern for us while we have our election integrity task force. Which is a good time to remind everyone if you have come across any election irregularities or want to participate in our efforts to secure our elections, drop an email right now to electionfraud@vtnm.org. That's electionfraud@vtnm.org. And I got to tell you, I'm looking forward. Catherine Engelbrecht with True the Vote, they're getting ready to do a massive data dump, and I cannot wait to see what else they have uncovered. It's going to be quite interesting. All right, man. I've blasted through those. Have I literally only been on for 19 minutes? Man, that was fast. Be a shorty tonight. I hope you got you some good questions in here, folks. Okay. This is an interesting one. Benny says, you want to be governor? Call out Greg Abbott's participation in the World Economic Forum. Well, the answer to your question is no. I do not want to be governor. I want to no longer be fighting for independence because we have achieved it, right? So I have no interest in being governor. But the second part, call out Greg Abbott's participation in the World Economic Forum, that is well publicized, right? I mean, and we could dedicate an entire broadcast of discussing the World Economic Forum. But yeah, Greg Abbott's part of it, and I would suspect that Greg Abbott is probably, you could probably consider him a globalist, right? And we got a video about that that we'll have to play on here at some point. But I would consider him a globalist. And but the question is he an avowed, committed globalist because of the ideology, or does he see it as a necessary step in his political career, something he has to do because he has his eyes set on the White House? Only Greg Abbott can answer that, but it does not negate the fact that sometimes things are not happening in the best interest of Texas. Which, by the way, speaking of Greg Abbott, I got a piece of hate mail this week. I should have had a slide for this, where I was literally being chastised for an article that appeared on TNM talking about how Greg Abbott has pulled yet another one of our policy proposals that we have made over the past several years, right? So you had the busing illegal aliens to Washington, D.C. 12 years ago as a third-party organization. Now, of course, interestingly enough, now it's not just a state program. He's seeking donations. So he literally now has taken it 100% of what we suggested. But we're past that, right? Go see my interview with go see my interview on Real America's Voice News. It's on the YouTube channel. Get the full explanation of why that is. But here we go. We call it out. Let's see if I can pull this thing up on the screen. I may not, since I'm in the middle of it, I may not be able to share it. Let's see here. I should have pulled that up because I didn't think that we were going to talk about this tonight, but I did get this piece of hate mail. And essentially what they were saying was, well, you should just be happy that he's doing what you guys wanted. And it's like, yeah, I'm sort of happy, but it's 10 years too late, right? If you go to your electeds and you say, this is the best course of action, right? This is what needs to happen to fix Texas. And they don't deliver for a decade plus. It's hard to be super happy about that, right? What if you went to a restaurant and you ordered your meal and it showed up 12 years later? I mean, what wouldn't you be upset? Wouldn't you say, look, I'm not paying the check, right? But here it is. So, anyway, so I can't get the share to work right now, but essentially what it is Greg Abbott appeared on Joe Pagg's radio show. And you guys know Joe Pags down in San Antonio, but he's syndicated all over Texas and the rest of the U.S. And he goes on Joe Pags and he's talking about the abortion issue and the Supreme Court. And he said that now would be a good time to challenge Plyler v. Doe. And you could hear the clickety clack of keyboards of people going, what the heck is Plyler v. Doe? Well, any of you who have been following the TNM for 10 plus years, including my campaign for state representative in 2012, and again, my campaign for lieutenant governor just this year, you will be familiar with Plyler v. Doe. And it was essentially a case that forced states and schools to educate illegal aliens. Okay, so in other words, you couldn't charge them tuition. You had to, so it basically knocked the door wide open for paying for state services for people who were not here legally. Okay. And so in 2012, we made the initial proposition. They said, look, we as Texans, before we get to Texas, we know that Texas is the only solution, but as a right now policy decision to really force this issue with the federal government, the state needs to directly challenge Plyler v. Doe. And you do that by passing legislation through the Texas Legislature that establishes as law here that you either deny public services to people who are not here legally, or you charge them tuition, right? If you're going to focus and narrow in on the education part of it. So that's what you do, knowing that it's going to force an issue with the feds. And again, they expose themselves. So this has been our thing. This has been our thing. And anyway, I got a piece of hate mail. Somebody said we should be happy about it. And it's like, well, yeah, I kind of am happy, but you understand a majority of the population just want out, right? We're past, getting crumbs from the master's table in the Supreme Court, or, a couple little concessions here and there. Texans are tired of this. We're over it. And we know that as a self-governing independent nation, we take all of it. We can make all those decisions ourselves and not have to beg for decades for the federal government to do what's right for Texas. We should never have to ask anyone to do the right thing for Texas. I said it during the ERCOT situation and the blackouts during Snowpocalypse 21. Said it over illegal immigration in the border. I've said it across a whole host of issues, and it's what the TNM has promoted. The best people to govern Texas are Texans, period. Right? We don't need Washington, D.C. in the equation. So anyway, yeah, I got that piece of hate mail. Man, I really wish I had it to show. It was something else. All right. Okay, so let's pull up another one. Okay, here's one that just came in via email. So let's take this one. And of course, can't show it on the screen. This is from Eric. Eric says, your book, Line in the Sand, is a tour de force, but it is so hard to find. Any plans for a reprint? Answer is yes. For those of you who do not know, I wrote a book in 2018, or it was released in 2018, called Texas. Okay. Now, let's see if we can bring that little slide up there. You know what? Why is it got to be technology problems tonight? So how many of you recognize that? Now, here's for the real buffs. How many of you recognize this book? Yeah, I know, right? I mean, look at this. Wow. Talk about a blast from the past. This is my book, Line in the Sand. And it was, 2011, 2012. Let's look here. This is the 2011. This is the first copy, the first that was produced. And I have it over there on the shelf. But Line in the Sand is a different book than Texas. And as a matter of fact, Texas came about as an attempt to get Line in the Sand back in print. Line in the Sand had been out of print for, I don't know, a few years. Copies were super scarce. And so I went to Defiance Press. You guys know our friends over at Defiance Press. And they signed me as an author. And when they signed me as an author, it was, okay, Line in the Sand, expanded, revised, put into print, and one more book. So I started on the process of updates, expansions, some revisions of Line in the Sand. And I started there, and then I ended up with that. Okay. But they are very different books. This one really deals with the philosophy of Texas nationalism more. It gets into some of the uncomfortable truths about the Union, which, some of that's covered in Texas, but it also it makes a very strong case why Texas is a nation. It fits the definition, and ultimately why the United States is not. And that turned out to be one of the most controversial parts of the book. So, very interesting. So, Eric, thank you for asking about that. I have been taking stabs and swipes at it. I've been taking stabs and swipes at it to get the expansion revision done, but you should see some movement on that front pretty soon. It's going to be a mega book, and it'll be probably very different. Like if you have one of these, hang on to it, because this won't exist again. Okay, something like this will exist again, but this will never exist again. It's going to be what's coming is going to be great, right? But there's a nostalgia factor, and I'll tell you, sometimes you go look on Amazon, and there are used copies of that book that sell for like $1,000 or $2,000. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, and honestly, if Defiance would allow me, I would just shoot that thing out in PDF form to anybody who wanted it. But alas, that's not my contract. So anyway, Eric, thank you so much for your question. All right, let's grab another one. Hey, super chat. Somebody with a username fried chicken 303. Okay, you had me at fried chicken, right? Thank you so much for the super chat. If you don't know what super chat is, if you are watching this on the TNM's YouTube page and you go into chat, you go there and they allow you to make contributions directly in the chat. It's called a super chat. So thank you so much for that, and really do appreciate it. Of course, if you don't want Google or those guys to take a cut, head over to tnm.me/donate. Of course, anything that comes through super chat or anything that comes through the donation page on TNM goes directly to the work of the Texas Nationalist Movement. So thank you so much for your super chat. Okay, let's move along the theme here, right? Carlton says, Daniel, how do we convince the governor to declare an invasion on our border? He had an opportunity when he had the press conference. The one where he talked about wanting to bus illegal aliens and do the enhanced checks and all that sort of thing. He had an opportunity. He very well could have done it, and word on the street was that that's what was going to happen. Right? That was what we were told was going to shake down. And that is not what happened at all. Not in the least. We were told that he was going to go down there. He was going to have a press conference. He was going to declare it an invasion and begin to exercise his full authority as commander-in-chief of the Texas Military Department. And he did not do that. And word was at the again, another 11th hour decision that he was dissuaded from it by the head of the Department of Public Safety, who said that he did not want to participate in that because he did not believe that the state would have their back if the federal government tried to charge them, right? So if they went down there and had to engage with the cartels and wound up having to, shoot and kill somebody, that he didn't feel the state would have their back. And, that's the thing that we have said time and time again about the challenge when, back in 2010 and such, when everybody's talking about nullification and interposition, that presupposes those two things, and a belief in those presupposes that at the moment the state practices nullification and you violate a federal law, then you have to have absolute confidence that the state will interpose on your behalf, right? If I go if the state passes a law, says I don't have to pay federal income tax, and I stop paying federal income tax, the IRS is not going to come after Greg Abbott. They're not going to come after Travis Clardy or Jeff Leach or Ken Paxton or George P. Bush or any of those people. They're going to come after me. And so ask me, given what I have seen, the level of lily-liveredness that I have seen out of these elected officials, convince me that they will stand in the gap for me. Not going to happen. They won't. Just like for the same reason that Abbott would not go down there and declare it an invasion. For the same reason that you have these guys, that Paxton is real light on calling it an invasion. Instead, it's George P. jumping up and down saying it. I mean, what kind of Twilight Zone world are we living in? But it's a general lack of courage. It really is. And, they say that we're cowards for wanting to enjoy the benefits of self-government, to exercise our right of self-government. But these guys, when they're faced with a little pressure, they fold like Superman on laundry day, right? I mean, when Dan Patrick was a state senator and Obama said that they were going to stop air traffic in Texas if Texas passed the law saying the TSA couldn't grope you, what happened? Dan Patrick got up, gave a fiery speech about, we used to be the come and take it state. I am withdrawing the legislation. He folded. It's insane, right? And we have some, but here's let me just say this, right? Not all is lost, because we know that the one thing that legislators, elected officials care about, are scared of more than the federal government, is not being reelected. They will move heaven and earth, right? They hate pressure. They hate being rolled in their own districts and their own towns and cities and neighborhoods. Nothing would make my heart gladder than to go to where one of these legislators lives, not to their house, but to each of their neighbors, and get them on board for Texas, and have the legislator's house surrounded by Texas Now yard signs. So they have to see it everywhere. Get a billboard, one of those big 4x8 signs. So every time they leave their house, they got to stare that billboard in the face, and they got to live with the fact knowing that everybody that lives around them that there is that much support, and everywhere they go, they got to look their neighbors in the eye and deny them that right of self-government. That, maybe that's a project. Maybe that's what we need to do, is start block walking their precincts. Whatever their home precinct is, we block walk, and we recruit as many T&M supporters and place as many Texas Now yard signs as we can absolutely get our hands on. Hey, Paul, Field Director Paul Roby, are you listening? This is about to get super fun. That's all I could say. All right. Thank you for the question, Carlton. Okay. This is a long one. Let's see if we can get this one, the whole one on the screen. Stan says, Dan, it's weird to hear my name shortened like that. But anyway, how is the TNM dealing with addressing all the West Coast liberals moving to Texas and diluting the Texas electorate, potentially impacting our ability to manifest our destiny as a republic? Okay, so look, this is something that I talk about all the time. Not everyone who's moving to Texas is a liberal. As a matter of fact, the statistics show that by and large, the people that are moving here from those states are fleeing because they're political, cultural, or economic refugees, right? I talked several coffee talks back on more than one occasion. I actually even talked about it today. I dropped in on the folks on the Conservatarian podcast over the Liberty Block to wish them congratulations on their 100th episode. And we got to talking a little bit about the Cruz O'Rourke senatorial race. Exit polling, both from the left and the right, and by left, I mean Texas Tribune, and the a little less left, Greg Abbott, showed that non-native Texans broke for Ted Cruz over Beto O'Rourke. So it definitely, definitely goes, I think, counter to the narrative. Okay. So that said, I think it's safe to assume that we are, from an economic perspective, sort of teetering on the precipice, right? As we have big tech corporations moving here, they're moving their workforce with them. those people are not fleeing some sort of political, economic, or cultural upheaval, right? They're moving because the company said, if you want to get paid, this is where our headquarters is. Go here. Okay. And you can rest assured that those people, when they move here, are going to be voting exactly how they voted when they left. So the question is, what does that balance look like? And there is no test, but what we will be able to see is a shift in polling in the electorate, and we're already seeing red counties get redder, blue counties get bluer, but we are seeing some shifts. And interestingly enough, the predictions were that the electoral, the political spectrum would shift because of that you've got with illegal or not illegal immigration, but even legal immigration, right? And I talk about it in the Texas book that first generation Latinos consider themselves Texans first in higher numbers than any other generation or any social group or ethnic group or economic group. So these first generation immigrants, these young, super young guys that they say are beyond our reach, right? But we know have made up a major portion of Texas support, right? They already have a cultural identity that they are Texans first, right? Not where they came from, not Americans first. They are Texans first. And so that demographic shift that was predicted to be the main driver of this, I think is not panning out in the way that they thought it would. And so, is this major ingress from these other states going to make a difference? Well, if those states continue to govern like they do and alienate people that think like we do, those people are going to flee to where they can be with people of like mind. And you have people coming here in record numbers that identify as Texans, that they're fleeing those ridiculous programs and Marxist government in those states that they're leaving. So, look, I think the jury's still out, but I have to say this, Stan. When it comes to addressing this issue, there are two things I want you to bear in mind, because you talk specifically about how's the T&M addressing. Number one is we will not ever be able to control who comes into Texas until we get Texas independence, right? So if your number, and you or anyone, and I'm not singling you out, but if anyone out there, if that is your major concern about immigration and who's coming here, then understand you're going to have to work double hard to make Texas happen, because there is no way to fix that within the federal system. It doesn't exist. Okay. Beyond the invasion aspect of it, but all they would have to do is remove the immigration limits altogether, right? They pass it on the federal level, then what do? Well, you withdraw from the union. That's what you do. But here's the second part, Stan, and I think this is super important. When it comes to the T&M, and I have been asked this many times before, and I've actually said it on here many times before. Been asked this during Q&As, but I want to repeat it for everyone to hear. When it comes to joining the T&M, to registering your support, becoming a member, right, volunteering, there's only one litmus test that we have, and that is, do you adhere to the mission, vision, and values of the Texas Nationalist Movement? That's the test, right? Will you adhere to these? Will you do these things? That's it. We don't ask to see your passport, your birth certificate. We do check your address, make sure you're here in Texas, because it's kind of hard to be a leader or a volunteer if you're, not here in Texas. But even when we have displaced Texans, right? Texans that are outside of Texas due to work or family or whatever it is, right? But that's our litmus test. And that's the sole litmus test that we have. And I put it to people this way. William Barrett Travis, not from Texas. Jim Bowie, not from Texas. David Crockett, not from Texas. Almost not everyone, but almost every single person at the Alamo, not from Texas. So many. And if they could fight and die for Texas independence, then who are we to set the bar any higher? Right? What makes us in this generation the arbiter to say that, well, if you come from someplace else, then your fight for independence is worth less? Right? That's not how it worked then. That's not how it's going to work now. Right? So we will never set the bar higher than what was set at the Alamo. But that said, when it comes to engaging in the TNM, people have to come in regardless, wholly consistent with our mission, which is to secure and protect the political, cultural, and economic independence of the nation of Texas, to secure a constitutional republic and the inherent rights of the people of Texas. Right? That's what our mission is. So if you could do that, I don't care what's on your birth certificate. I don't care where you come from. I've seen people that were not born in Texas that fight 100 times harder than people who were expelled on the soil. Right? You know, there are some people that were born here that should be very ashamed of how they are being outworked by people who got here, that saw what it was where they were, pulled up stakes, got rid of everything, and came here to make their last stand for freedom and independence. So some native-born Texans ought to be ashamed. Now, you know me, I'm about as native as it gets, right? But you know, sixth generation, first ancestor fought at the Battle of San Jacinto. I'm about as native as it gets. But I'm telling you, I see people that have come here from these other states that understand the kind of hell that is coming to Texas if we don't save Texas. And they've chosen this place to make their last stand. And sometimes they run circles around some of the native-born people, right? Native Texans that ought to be ashamed of themselves. All right. Let's see what we got going on here. Do we have any other questions? Man, I think that's it. I think we're going to wrap up pretty doggone early. So let me go ahead and do this. Just a quick reminder, because I'll be in trouble if I do not. If you are not already a member of the Texas Nationalist Movement, we would love to have you. Head over to tnm.me/join today to join. That's tnm.me/join. And of course, let's talk about this again. Join a local group, right? tnm.me/local groups. I mean, we're popping local groups and spinning them up all over the place. And if you haven't got a local group spun up in your community, you can always organize one. Head over to tnm.me/local. And of course, get that sweat equity in, right? Help make it happen. This is not a Bernie Sanders movement, right? You should not expect your independence to be given to you. You should expect to go out there and earn it, right? So get in the game, get your hands dirty. Everyone can do something, right? Let me just be very clear. Let me take this off. Everyone can do something. Everyone can do something in service of the cause of Texas independence. Everyone, period. Whatever your situation is, everyone can do something, right? So head over to tnm.me/volunteer, jam your hand in the air, and make it happen. All right, folks, that is going to be a wrap. Man, how rare is it for me to come in under time? I love this, but had good coffee with you guys tonight. Be sure, just again, a reminder, be sure to send in your questions ahead of time. That was really nice for those guys who sent those in. But go ahead and get your questions in, right? Send them over to coffeetalk@vtnm.org. Send your questions and comments. I will definitely read all of them and may feature some of them on a live stream. So would love to see them. And be sure when you get a chance, follow me on social media. I am at the Texian DM anywhere and everywhere. And remember, if you did not catch us at the beginning, be sure to share this live stream when it wraps up, right? It drops, so you can go back and watch it on the replay, but share it because we have to reach more Texans. So let me wrap up with the words that I wrap up with every single solitary time. It is the words of Sam Houston. He said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.